This special bonus episode of Secured with Dr. KJ takes a deeply personal and thought-provoking look at a topic that impacts every parent, educator, and technologist, the digital lives of our children. As kids grow up in a world where privacy is no longer a given, but a fading concept, we ask the tough questions. What is the real cost of constant connectivity? How do we strike a balance between innovation and protection? And most importantly, can privacy be reclaimed in a world powered by AI, data tracking, and surveillance? Whether you're a parent, a tech leader, or simply someone concerned about the future of privacy, this episode will challenge your thinking and inspire action. Today on Secured with Dr. KJ, we're joined by a guest whose cybersecurity expertise spans industries and generations. Richard Kaufmann is a cybersecurity and artificial intelligence leader with deep expertise protecting critical infrastructure across healthcare, finance, and manufacturing. Over the last 2 decades, he has led high-performing security teams, advised C-level executives, and driven transformation efforts that connect security, compliance, and operational resilience. Currently advising global healthcare organizations at Microsoft, Richard focuses on securing patient data, enabling AI-powered clinical operations, and navigating complex regulatory landscapes. He's especially passionate about using machine learning and automation to simplify security, enhance outcomes, and defend against the evolving threat landscape. Richard's leadership is rooted in clarity, simplicity, and systems thinking. Whether he's helping a healthcare organization recover from a ransomware attack or architecting a zero trust strategy for modernization. And when he's not tackling security at scale, he's spending time with his family, staying fit, and when the timing's right, dropping a legendary dad joke. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thanks, KJ. I'm glad to be here today.
Hey, man, super excited about this topic. And so let's just dive right into question one. So today's children are growing up in a world where constant connectivity is the norm. What do you think is the true price our kids are paying for the conveniences of modern technology?
Yeah, I love that question, and I'll tell you, as a father of 5 now, it's something that's always kind of on the top of my mind. And so my kids are between the ages of 8 and 20, right? So when you think about the technology that they're using and their experience out in the world, it's very different, but it's also kind of cool to watch the differences, right, between how teenagers interact with technology and how the 8-year-old is like just starting to come into this ecosystem. We recently kind of had this thing with the teenagers, right? They're driving age and they're out in the world, and we obviously want to make sure that they're safe and provided for. And one of the things that my wife and I kind of require is Life 360, right? One of those location tracking apps where it's like, hey, listen, like we want to know if you end up on the side of the road somewhere and you need help, we want to know exactly where you are. And I think that's one of the biggest differences between my kids' childhood and mine. If you had told me at the age of 17, my parents had said, hey, Richard, if you want to drive your car, we have to know where you are at all times. Right. I would have said, I'll go buy my own car. Like there's no way I would have been okay with my parents knowing where I was as a teenager.
I totally understand. It's definitely a fine line. And as a father of, a daughter, a grown daughter, for me, I think it's like, hey, that's my one and nothing's going to happen to her. So I need to have an opportunity to have a starting place.
Exactly.
Right, where she's at.
But I think that's kind of one of the biggest things. And, it's always so important to me. And it's always like, I really appreciate people who have this same perspective is, look, I'm a millennial. I was born in 1982, right? I came up with I grew up in a house that didn't have the internet. Right. I grew up in a house where we turned the knobs on the TV still, we had an encyclopedia that we used for reports in school until high school. Like that, right. That's and I tell that to my kids, and my 8-year-old calls it the olden days, right? And she's like, right. In the olden days, did y'all have a telephone? And it was like, and the answer to that is yes, but not in the same context that she thinks what a telephone is, right?
Right.
And I just think that to me, like, that's one of the really interesting things when we think about them, and just that experience on, like, we need to know where you are. I think one of the things that's really kind of been detrimental to our kids is they don't know what privacy really is. They've never experienced privacy, right?
Mhm.
My kids have grown up in a world where their first interaction with technology was an email address. And guess what? They've never spent a dime for any of those services.
No.
Gmail is free, TikTok is free, Instagram is free. There's never been skin in the game from a financial perspective for them. They've always just participated in these ecosystems freely. But what they don't understand is that these services aren't free, and it's come at a cost of their privacy.
AKA data.
That's right.
I think that is the number one thing. And so, like, even with my daughter, I remember she wanted Facebook, and I was like, why? And you're 11.
Yeah.
Why? Right? And she's like, well, my friends. And, as a parent, you're like, you don't want to give them FOMO, right? You don't want to
Yep.
give them that. But on top of that, they need to understand what's going on out there in the world. And so what I did, it was like, hey, you need to understand the security of what Facebook was. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to listen and be like, okay, what crazy thing did you do, KJ? Right? Well, no, I said, hey, provide me something that shows that you understand the security of what social media is. So she created a 2-page PowerPoint, gave it to me, presented it and everything. And I was like, wow. I was like, that's amazing. I was like, I can appreciate that. But then I dove a little deeper, me
Yep.
being in this space. And I think we as parents have to take an active role in making sure that these kids understand the dangers of just posting a picture, right? Because you don't want it to end up somewhere where it shouldn't be. You talk about the catfish game,
That's
right?
right.
Like people get catfished all the time. That's unacceptable, right? But it happens every single day, every single second, something is happening like that. And then, hey, you take a photo, live photos, an iPhone, you upload that picture, somebody downloads it. Now they know exactly where you're at because of the GPS, right? And the coordinates that are there. So I think about those things, and especially having a young girl, sometimes, we think about boys and they're a little different. Hey, they're rugged, they're boys, but it's your child regardless. And so you have to keep them safe. So Richard, everything you said is great. So
Yeah, you're gonna have to send me that PowerPoint template as well. So it sounds like my kids are gonna have some work to do here pretty soon.
I got you. I got you. So let me ask you this then. So do you think that, it's really affecting their mental health and their development, and also when it comes to relationships with other people?
I do.
Hmm.
I also have to say that, a lot of the things that we just talked about as well, they're not always unique to our children, and they're like fairly commoditized. And I think, right, like that experience that most teenagers or young adults are feeling right now with social media, it's similar. But I
Right.
also think that the net benefit, I just wish that they had more context to how things work, right? Like
Right.
to you, to your point, right? It's as simple as uploading a picture, I'm having fun. But
Right.
where does that picture go, and where does that live, right? And I think, uh, sometimes our kids can have a little bit like a rosy outlook on life, and they don't understand it's very easy, and not even like true maliciousness or stalking and all the stuff that like you and I as cybersecurity experts deal with every
Right.
single day, but just something as mundane as like, why would you be okay with conceptually like somebody knowing all that stuff? So
100%. And so when you also think about parents in school, right? So how do we then navigate the trade-off between access and protection?
yeah, and especially in today's day and age, we're under a shift right now
Mhm.
where, I hate to be so existential about it, but up until this point, a lot of worth that we put on people has been on their ability to acquire knowledge, right? So, right, think about, I know growing up when I was young, what were the two best jobs you could get? Doctor, lawyer. Because you
Yeah.
had 7 years of school and it like kind of showed like you're this bright person. And it's not, my 8-year-old searches it up is what she calls it and goes to ChatGPT and will ask it, how do I do something and get instructions on how to do it. And I think that utility is fantastic, right?
Mhm.
Again, the trade-off of it all, I don't know. I'm a big proponent of AI. I'm actually a big proponent of technology in the classroom, but I
Right.
think there has to be the right controls in place. And again, to me, that should come with a greater understanding of how most of these technology companies utilize data and what they're doing with it behind the scenes, right? It's just
Right.
like we always made the joke, right? Like no one in high school taught us how to balance a checkbook. Well, no one also is teaching our kids how these platforms work from an algorithm and technology standpoint. And I think that's a good point of knowledge for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, you brought up AI, so I definitely
Yeah,
have to
that's the
ask
thing.
even more in depth, right? But with the AI increasingly embedded in educational tools, our toys, the apps, how do we truly balance innovation with the need to protect our children, that personal data and the digital autonomy?
I think it takes a shift in perspective, right?
Hmm.
Where it's no longer again like, do you know this? It should be. How are you going to use this?
Right.
Um, I mean, I think there is great value. I mean, look, I remember in high school and hate being told you'll never have a calculator in your pocket. Guess what?
Hmm.
We all have calculators in our pocket. But that
Right.
doesn't mean I shouldn't learn how to do math, right? It's still important that we teach our kids the fundamentals and all this, but also, right? I'm not saying it's one or the other. We have
Right.
to add on to these curriculums of this isn't just about getting the knowledge, it's applying the knowledge. And
Yeah.
like, what what a better time in history for us to put like inspiring messages to our kids, right?
Right.
Let's go back to the moon. Let's go do all the stuff that like we grew up like fantasizing about, right?
Right. Oh
We
yeah.
have this amazing technology in AI right now that I think really do believe can
Mhm.
help us, right? Let's bring the inspiration back into the classroom.
No, I love that. And so then are companies doing enough though, and are schools doing enough to protect kids' data when it comes to those AI powered tools?
No, absolutely, in my opinion, absolutely not, right?
Okay.
And I mean,
Okay.
part of that is an understanding that this is new, right?
Right.
But another part of that is understanding that like a majority of our interactions have been designed to be transactional, like financially,
Hmm.
right? And we've kind of lost this idea of
Yeah.
service, right? Not everything used to be for profit all the time. There used to be an idea that we were going to do things just for the betterment of communities and kids, and there wasn't a payoff, and
Right.
some of those things were expensive, and that was okay, right? Because it's again like this
Mhm.
phrase of like money well spent, investing in our future, understanding how quickly things are changing. Because I guarantee you, if we don't solve this in the next 24 months, in 5 years, I don't know that you're going to be able to unring that bell, right?
Yeah, and that's going to be the tough part is if we don't get a handle on it now and put the proper controls in place, the proper usage in place for our kids. And like my daughter being a college age individual, and using AI, and I'm like, how do you use it? And she's like, well, just for an idea. She was like, but nothing more than that. She was like, I like my brain power to take the rest of it, right? Take the credit. And to me, that is a right way to use it, is a stepping stone for maybe an idea to then flesh out the rest of it. And then, hey, maybe you get another writer's block and you need another idea to keep it moving forward. But there are many different ways to use it, right? As we have agents, we have, make mundane tasks very simple and very easy for us. So, I mean, there's a lot going on out there, and it, getting a handle on it and just being ahead of the game, I don't know if we're ever going to be ahead. That's the problem.
Yeah, and I hate to be pessimistic about it, but I don't think we will, right? Like,
Right.
I don't think we have the right structures in place at the
Mhm.
right levels to really be effective by that,
Right.
right? But I also, maybe this is my optimism showing through here.
Right.
I do believe that the technology is disruptive enough, and I
Hmm.
do think it has the potential, if we use it correctly, to help us kind of put those things in place just more organically, right? After this podcast, I've got a tinfoil podcast. I'll go on and tell you like my super conspiracy theory, maybe another one, the
Right.
special guest episode of super conspiracy for AI and Richard.
I love it. No, looking forward to it. You're definitely going to be back on for sure. And so, but when we look at our generations and how, um, if this new generation has never truly experienced privacy, is it possible to even reclaim it? Right. And then what does getting it back look like in this world that's driven by surveillance and predictive tech?
So I actually think this is where AI can help us, right?
Okay.
When you look at it, and I work in the healthcare space right now, and when you look at like, here's a very highly regulated industry that deals with the most sensitive data that there is.
Right.
And there are mechanisms right now for us to take that data pool,
Hmm.
de-identify it, and still use it for analytics and all of that things. And I think that's my hope for AI. My hope for AI is that it kind of creates this translation
Yeah.
area between real life people and the desire for their
Right.
data, right? So maybe it's no longer, Richard Kaufmann, a millennial from Louisiana, did this, but, a more generalized summary of that. I'm okay with people having access to that, right?
Yeah.
As long as you can't completely trace those breadcrumbs back to me, the individual. And,
Right.
and again, I think that's kind of the things, but the interesting part is, and I think this is, again, going back to more existential, is let's say that we can put that genie in the bottle.
Hmm.
How would our kids really even use privacy again, right? Like, how would they value that in a world where they came up not experiencing it, right? And I'll say this, like, for our kids, better or worse, I find that they are much more kind, much more empathetic to their
Right.
others, because I think they've had this sense of global community from Jump Street, and not
Right.
just like, I am me, the individual, which is probably what you and I
Hmm.
grew up with.
Right. Well, I then ask you, which I love what you just said, but I ask you, is privacy just a luxury? Or is it, in specific to our children, right?
Yeah.
Or is it just, hey, there we go. We're just going to throw privacy in the bag and we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, I don't think so, right? I think privacy is at the heart of who we are as
Right.
humans, right? There,
Okay.
and again, there's part of us that we're social beings. There's no doubt about that. But there's also part of us, of everybody, that wants to have things that nobody else knows about, right?
Right.
And I think bringing that experience
Yeah.
back to our kids, I don't know. To me, like, as a dad, I'll take that for my life's work, if that's what it takes.
I like it. And so what are your final thoughts here? And I'm gonna preface it with this: is what does a healthy digital future look like?
Yeah. So much less interaction, right? I think, again, as part of this transaction that's taken place, it it's happening in front of a screen,
Hmm.
and in the world of AGI, I don't know that we need a screen, right? And that's what has me hopeful. Is
Love it.
if we can get kids back out in the streets riding bikes with the comfort and the safety and the utility of AI or whatever it is, go
Yeah.
ahead, right? That's awesome. And I think we'll get there. It's a few years away.
Right.
But hopefully not too much damage has been done between now and then.
No. Richard, this has been an amazing conversation. I think this can go into 10 to 15 more different pillars if we decided to do that. But you're definitely going to be back on the show at some point.
Can't wait.
We're going to figure that out. So well, thank you for joining today. It's been amazing and looking forward to the next.
Yeah, thanks, KJ. This has been fun. We'll talk soon.
All right now. Thank you for tuning in to this special bonus episode of Security with Dr. KJ. Today's conversation with Richard Kaufmann reminded us that while technology continues to transform the way that we live and learn, it also demands deeper reflection on what we're sacrificing, especially when it comes to the privacy and digital well-being of our children. As we navigate AI, digital identity, and the evolving tech landscape, it's clear the decisions we make today will shape the future for the next generation. Let's lead with intention, responsibility, and a commitment to building a safer digital world. If you found value in this episode, be sure to follow Secured with Dr. KJ on your favorite platform. And let's keep securing tomorrow, one episode at a time.